Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 100th episode of WP Roundtable. I'm Jason Crawford, coming back for this great episode, and we have another great guest with us. And if you can see Kyle dancing, he must be really excited today. So I'll just go ahead and hand it over to him.
Jason, I'm incredibly excited. I cannot believe that we made it to 100 episodes. Can you believe we've come this far, my friend? 6 digits.
It seems like it's been a long time. It seems like it hasn't been nearly as long as it has, I don't think.
I know, so many great episodes. We should have like a greatest hits or something like that. All right, so episode 100. This is an exciting milestone for us, and we're really happy to be here and happy to continue providing some great interviews with people in the community, and I'm looking forward to 100 more. My name is Kyle, and I'm coming to you from Jackson, Michigan, and I run a company called Real Big Marketing. We make WordPress websites for businesses. And so our special guest for episode 100 is somebody that I met in person last December. He's an employee over at Automattic, has worked with a company called Woo Themes before that. And his name is Hugh Lashbrooke, and he's coming to us live from Africa, our first guest in Africa.
Sweet.
So welcome to the show, Hugh.
Yeah, hey, thanks. Cool to be here.
All right.
And just to clarify, I do still work at Woo Themes as part of Automattic. So I'm on the Woo team inside Automattic.
That could easily be confusing to some people. Woo Themes.
Yeah. There's a lot of overlap, obviously, since the acquisition. But, yeah.
Yes. Woo Themes have been around the WordPress space for quite a long time, and this past May, was it, that they were acquired by Automattic?
Yeah, I think it was May.
Yeah. That was pretty big news at the time. So I think you're the first Woo Themes employee that we've had on the show post-acquisition.
Sweet.
Yeah. We'll have a lot to talk about. It should be an exciting show, and not our typical time. So we're happy to be here anyway. So let's jump into our quick picks of the week before we start learning about Hugh Lashbrooke. So my quick pick of the week is a plugin, and I spent a little bit of time at WordCamp San Diego this past weekend, and it was an absolute great time. San Diego was a blast, and I chatted for a little bit with a recent guest on the show. Back in episode 93, we had Konstantin Oberlund on the show, and he talked about the previous WordPress 4.3 release that he was the lead for, and he talked about he talked with me in person this past weekend about some of the initiatives that he's working on. In particular, Shiny Updates is a plugin that he's advancing that is amazing. I'm really, really excited about it. It does some cool things, improving the user experience in the UI for updating plugins specifically, or actually really core and themes I think are encompassed within the Shiny Updates plugin. But it's an active plugin that's on WordPress repository, and it's a pretty cool project with a few contributors, and they're very much looking for more contributors. Konstantin told me that one of his objectives over the weekend was pushing and encouraging more people to begin using the plugin and providing input. It's pretty simple to just install the plugin and just share your thoughts about the experience, and if you're a developer, maybe help advance some issues. It's not very complicated, and they're really in need of more input before it becomes a core feature, which is the purpose behind this particular project. So I encourage you to check out Shiny Updates. Just install it, run it on some of your sites, and see what you think, and give them some input.
Nice. I've got to plead guilty here and say I completely forgot about picks of the week, so I've got nothing. And rather than wasting a lot of time jumping around trying to find something, I'm just going to be guilty on this one.
Shame. Hugh, do you have something to share?
Yeah, there's actually something I discovered fairly recently. It's actually fun as well, called Really Simple SSL. And obviously with SSL becoming more and more prevalent and more important, especially with the move to HTTP2, which requires SSL, running SSL on your site to WordPress site or any type of site, so it's super important. And this is basically a plugin that pretty much sorts out everything for you. You get your SSL certificate, you have to get that separately, and Let's Encrypt is a great free service for that. And then this plugin pretty much sorts out everything else you need. It fixes all your mixed content warnings, all of that stuff, so everything's served over SSL. It all works out the box, and you pretty much activate the plugin. It just works with no settings, which is pretty cool. I was told that it's not a good idea to do this kind of thing at the plugin level. It should be rather done like server level. But for someone like me who I do a lot of programming, but I'm not so clued up with servers exactly. This kind of thing is really cool, and that's super useful.
Cool. Thanks, Hugh, for sharing that. We'll put a link to that on the event page so people can check it out. So at this point, let's learn a little bit about you, Hugh. We have not known each other for a very long time, so there's a lot that we want to learn. And so I'd like to start at the beginning, if we could. Do you mind taking us a bit back before you had a career, before you were working on WordPress and working online, and what kind of things did you aspire to do, and, before college? What is it you set out to do with your life?
What is it I set out to do with my life? It's well, that's interesting. When I was a child, I don't really know why, but when I was a child, I really, really wanted to be a chef. I thought it would be awesome. And I think at one point I decided I wanted to be a pastry chef. And I think it's because I mostly really, really liked it as a child, and I thought cakes were pretty cool. So I wanted to be a chef and make cakes for a living, pretty much. Which is, I think, different to most of my friends. That wasn't me. And then at some point while I was growing up, I sort of decided that's not really a career for me, mostly because I'm not very good at it. And I started messing around with the web and getting interested in that side of things. My dad was a very young trained person, so I was around to it. And I got into just learning some basic HTML and stuff when I think I started when I was 12 or 13. And then, I started building websites for my friends' bands, which was cool, and I did it for free, and they let me get into their shows for free, which was always fun. And then it sort of just grew from there, and I eventually just got into it as a career, which is cool. But before I actually got into web development, I went off to study theology for a year at a local Christian college, which is very cool. I'm really glad I did it. It was an awesome degree. It didn't really qualify me for much in terms of careers, but it was fascinating, and it was I'm really glad I did it. It had a big impact on my life. And after that, I worked at my church for a bit, and I decided I don't really want to work at the church. I just want to go to one. And I knew a guy who was the HR manager at a local web development firm, and he sort of, even though all I really knew was HTML, he got me in as like a junior PHP developer, which was interesting. My first day of writing PHP was my first day of my job at that company. So I was kind of thrown in the deep end, supporting an existing project that was really, really big for like a really big client, and so that was fun. But that's sort of how I got into doing web stuff.
Great. So at what point did you kind of encounter WordPress and begin adopting that?
It was while I was at the first company. This is a local agency, and we did a lot of custom stuff. The system, the main custom client I worked on was an MVC framework. It was a modified version of Cake PHP, modified internally, and they called it Muffin. Which was quite clever. So I worked in that. That was kind of the framework I was working in, and that was my introduction to PHP. And I sort of got interested in writing a lot of custom stuff in different frameworks and writing kind of custom frameworks, which was never a good idea. I would never recommend that. And when I kind of first sort of heard about WordPress as a development platform as opposed to just like a simple blogging thing, first as a development platform, I sort of thought, why would I do that when I could write something myself way more cool? And then I realized writing something yourself takes a very long time and is prone to a lot of mistakes. So at first I didn't actually like the idea of WordPress or any CMS for that matter. It wasn't a WordPress specific thing. One of the guys I worked with was Jeff Pierce, who now also works at Woothie or at Automattic. And he was a big fan of WordPress, and he kind of got me more interested in it. And when he moved to WooThemes from that same company, after a while he recommended that they hire me as well. So I ended up moving there through him, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool. So thank you. What kind of role did you originally fill when you got the job at WooThemes?
Originally, I was just a developer and was kind of put on lots of different sort of projects. I was kind of hired to do sort of, I think I just wanted another developer to sort of take on some of the extra stuff that wasn't really being picked up by the product teams. Obviously back then, WooThemes was a lot smaller. I think I was the 18th employee, so we're a lot smaller back then. By the time we acquired Automattic last year, I think we were 60 people. So we didn't have really defined teams as such as we do now and stuff. It was more sort of everyone takes on something. So I was putting a lot of little projects, a lot of little things. We did a lot of work on WeThings.com. I actually worked on a big project that was the first big thing I worked on there. And then it got canned, and we didn't use it. But it was called Woo Hosting. It was going to be like a white labels hosting service where you could basically, we had it like, I think on the home page of WeThings.com for a while saying coming soon, and then ended up not coming. And it was going to be like, it's kind of hosting, it was WP Engine hosting white labeled as Woo Hosting, basically. So I worked a lot on the UI for that and stuff, and then eventually it was canned. So it was a lot of that kind of stuff, more utility things, kind of little projects that needed to be done, and then no one else was doing. Yeah.
Fascinating. So WooThemes has had an interesting history, I think. Obviously, beginning as a theme company, being the primary focus, and then
of course,
shifting significantly. So you were there pre-WooCommerce?
Yeah. Oh, no, sorry, I wasn't. WooCommerce had come out while I was at the previous company I was working at before WooThemes. And then it was still early stages. I can't remember what version it was on when I joined. It would be 1 point something, 1.2 or something like that. I'm not sure, 1.3. So that's actually one of the things I also worked on when I joined was we've got a few WooCommerce extensions that we sold in-house and stuff. But I was there before we moved. I remember I was there before we moved WeThemes.com over to WooCommerce because we were still using a custom platform for running WeThemes.com or running the sales on WeThemes.com. Or quite a bit before that. And I remember actually recommending that we should switch our site to use WooCommerce because it makes sense to use our stuff. And I was told that's never going to happen for whatever reason at the time. And then eventually it did. So I like to think I triggered that, although I wasn't really involved in it.
It does seem like it would have been it must have been a very interesting experience working with this company for so long that has done so many things, and you even bring up others that we didn't even know about. WooThemes has had any number of products from its extensive theme catalog and to a number of different plugins, and then obviously the WooCommerce ecosystem in itself, which came a little bit later. So it does seem like WooThemes was always looking for kind of strategically new opportunities to innovate and into other markets and things
for sure.
Launch new products. Like, what was that like being involved with a company that's always like, what's the next thing we should be working on?
It was pretty cool. Sorry, it still is pretty cool. I said was. I'm still at WooThemes. It's pretty cool. What I actually quite liked about it was when people asked me, what do you do? I said, I work at WooThemes, and some people knew who they were, which was made my life easier. Some people didn't. So I explained WordPress. Most people knew what WordPress is, so that helped. So we build WordPress themes and plugins and stuff. And one thing that always quite excited me that I told people was that we don't just build these themes and plugins. We kind of do a lot of stuff that a lot of other companies in the space aren't doing yet, or we're innovating a lot of stuff, which I thought was exciting. And it was, that's something that always really excited me about joining WooThemes and being there. Obviously, as time goes on, there's sort of less innovation that can happen in terms of products, just because people kind of do everything and run out of new ideas, I guess. You run out of new things to do. But it's always been exciting being in a company that's sort of on the forefront of what's happening in the WordPress ecosystem, whether it's as products or as community or anything. That's always been cool for me.
Yeah, it does seem like it would be very exciting to be involved with a growing, innovative-minded company that is very willing to experiment often and try new product opportunities and try shifting resources around in different ways until some things just really work out, and totally not afraid to abandon projects that don't work out and move into things that succeed. It just because WordPress has been on a really unprecedented meteoric rise, and its user base. And so opportunities have shifted over years since WooThemes has been around. Particularly with like WooCommerce, what has your experience been like behind the scenes? In the planning and in the strategic discussions and product development, and just watching this thing just take off like nothing else.
It's been interesting. In terms of being involved with WooCommerce, obviously they launched it before I joined the company. And I was involved in building a lot of WooCommerce extensions. There's a number that we still sell on the site that I built originally. Other people since taken over to improve. It was pretty cool being involved in that. I didn't actually contribute too much to WooCommerce core itself in terms of code. I think I maybe submitted 3 or 4 patches to WooCommerce core, and they were quite minor. But I did a lot of the extensions and stuff. But lately I've been a lot more involved in the community side of things with WooCommerce, like meetups and things like that, which is very, very cool. So seeing this grow to a point where from like a product that was basically an e-commerce plugin for WordPress to something that has like meetups and a community around it is pretty awesome. Like we have people contacting us every couple of weeks to say they want to start a WooCommerce meetup in the area, and I help them get going with that. So that's pretty cool. And seeing that happen has been, I don't know, it's really exciting being in the middle of all of that, seeing the stuff growing so quickly and then just be right there helping it along, and also just seeing it and watching all these. I mean, I work with some incredibly talented people. The guys who build WooCommerce, and all our products are amazing. And being alongside them and seeing the stuff the code they churn out and the products they build, it's just, it's hugely exciting.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. So, on that note, tell us a little bit about what your roles and responsibilities are specifically at this time.
At the moment, what I'm working on is, well, kind of before the acquisition, what I got more involved in is the community side of things. So before that, I was lead developer for Sensei, which is our courseware plugin. So you can run courses on your WordPress site, which is a very cool product, by the way. So I was lead on that for a while, and then I moved into more community roles. So my role was getting WooThemes involved in the WordPress community, get our team members involved in giving back to WordPress, whether it's committing to core or translating or organizing meetups and WordCamps or whatever it is, helping them in whatever way it made sense for them. And then obviously post-acquisition, that started to shift a little bit. I've since got more involved with the kind of business partnership side of things. So I've been assisting with partnerships in the WordPress space, which is cool. Chatting to other companies in the WordPress space that are worthwhile us getting involved with. And then I've also got really involved with the WooCommerce community side of things lately. So that's been the last few months, because that's been growing quite a lot lately. So if someone's interested in starting a WooCommerce meetup in the area, they'll contact us, it'll get passed on to me, I'll chat to them, I'll interview them, see if they're a good fit for it, which they normally are. The type of people who request to do that are normally pretty clued up. So that's quite, the interview is actually quite easy. Yeah.
I'm curious a little bit about how you ended up in this particular role. Was this something that you were just passionate about and interested in and just said, we need to be doing more of this and I should be doing more of this? Or was it, on the other side, someone saying, we need more community involvement and Hugh is the right guy to do it, or some combination of we need to do less development in the community?
It was sort of a combination, but mostly me pushing it. There was a bit of talk about us getting more involved in the community for a while. Shortly after I joined Woo, there was a big discussion about whether we should have like someone on the team whose full-time job is to commit patches for core. There was this big discussion about that, and it sort of never materialized because obviously building new products kind of becomes more of a priority. So there's kind of this sort of underlying discussion about that a lot of the time. And the longer I worked at Woo, the more involved I got in the community. I got very involved in my local community in Cape Town, organized my local WordCamp and meetups and stuff. And I just kind of, the benefit of being involved in the community kind of has struck me more and more and more as time went on. And I thought it's something I really am really passionate about and something I really want to do. So I basically kind of wrote up a job description for myself saying, this is what I want to do. And that happened. So basically, I wrote up a job description and said, I want to be involved in community. I want to help WooThemes to get more involved in the community. And I could have sort of listed some of the tasks that would be involved in that job. and I worked with Matt Cohen, who was my team lead at the time, and he helped me sort of flesh that out to be a more complete job description rather than just some cool ideas I had. And it took I think it took almost over a year after I first submitted the idea of saying, hey, I want to do this job. And eventually we agreed to it and I moved roles, which is cool. It wasn't because I wasn't happy doing development, which I was doing before, but I mean, I was really enjoying that. It was just, this is something I really wanted to do, and I think WooThemes needed it. Yeah.
So what various aspects are you involved in the community? I know you do like meetups and WordCamps. Are there any other aspects in where you're involved?
Yeah, so for the last couple of years, I've been lead organizer for our local WordCamp. I'm not this year because they have a sort of policy where if you've been lead organizer for a couple of years, someone else takes over. So someone else is taking up this year. I'm still involved though, and I kind of organize our local WordPress meetup, which is cool. And in other events, we have some other WordPress-related events locally. But other than that, I'm what they call a Word community deputy, which basically in the WordPress community, there's a lot of people who apply to be meetup organizers or WordCamp organizers or that kind of thing. And the community team doesn't have all the manpower to sort of answer all those queries and do all those interviews and everything. So they enlisted people who are called deputies and they train them on how to interview people and how to vet the organizers and how to handle budgets and how to do all of that stuff. There's loads of different things to do. So I'm a community deputy. I only do a few of the roles in it. I haven't been trained on all the different things to do, but so that's quite cool. I get the chance to vet new organizers and that kind of thing. Which is actually I find quite exciting. So I'm involved there. I contribute to WordPress core every now and then. I think the last 3 releases I had patches in, but they've been quite minor things. I've got a few plugins out, which I really enjoy working on. I do see plugins as, that's quite a cool way to give back to the community as well, because it does enhance WordPress itself if there's good plugins alongside it. I don't know what else I do. Yeah, I was at the WordPress Community Summit last year, which is quite cool, being around all those people who are so heavily involved in the community and the people there can making a lot of decisions for stuff that's going to happen in the WordPress ecosystem for the next 12 months. So it was very cool being there. So I got a chance to do that as well, which was very exciting. And that's where I met Kyle, actually.
So you say that as you've been in this role, you've grown in your appreciation for community involvement, even more than you were before. And I'm curious if you could just kind of speculatively describe what you believe the WooThemes would be like, and the company, what position the company would be in, how things would generally be different if you, as an organization, had decided not to invest in the community as you have. How would things be different?
As a company, wow, that's an interesting question. It would be interesting because one of the huge benefits of being involved in the community is that you can you get a feel for what people are looking for and what people need and what kind of products are being developed and that kind of thing. And I think without having your ear relatively close to the ground in the community, you can sort of do your own thing and then no one sort of cares. WooThemes has always been involved in the community to some degree, and that's obviously grown and grown over the years. And I think because of that, it's been a huge benefit for the company, because as we build products, like WooCommerce, for example, it's been incredibly beneficial because there was clearly a need for a new e-commerce platform and that kind of thing. I think if WooThemes hadn't been so involved, if WooThemes hadn't been so involved in the community over the years, they wouldn't have been building the kind of products that people need. But also there wouldn't be this, I think there's quite a strong trust for the company from within the community. And I think it's partly because WooThemes has always built really, really good, solid products. And I'm biased, but it's definitely true. But also because we got involved in WordCamps, if it's speaking or sponsoring or whatever, and meetups and all that kind of stuff. And WooThemes has always been involved. And I think that engenders a lot of trust in the community and people like that. I know personally I would much rather work with a company that is really involved in the community than someone who just sort of hangs out and benefits, but doesn't really get involved. So I think without that involvement, I don't think there'd be as much trust in the company. And does that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you.
I'm kind of curious, what was your first interaction with the community? Was it a WordCamp, meetup, or what was that first engagement, and what was it like?
First engagement,
it was WordCamp in Cape Town. So our local WordCamp was before I got involved in it. Well, technically it was a bit before that when I was at WeThemes and I was chatting to some people who were, I forgot what company they were from, but it was somewhere in the States. And we're talking about what they're doing in the meetup and WordCamp and stuff. And it kind of got me excited about it. And we did have a local WordCamp and a local meetup here in Cape Town, but the meetup wasn't very frequent. And I mean, it's difficult to get frequent meetups. So, that was a challenge at the time. But then we had a WordCamp that year, and I went there, and it was just awesome. It was awesome seeing all, I think there was 300 or so people there to learn and talk and share about WordPress, which I thought was super, super exciting. And yeah, I think that was my first real experience with the community, was that WordCamp in Cape Town.
And how big is the community in Cape Town?
We have quite a few hundred people in our meetup.com group. Our WordCamp, we have around 300 people at our WordCamp every year, which is pretty cool. And our meetup, the actual meetup, sort of depends what we're doing. We don't have meetups as frequently as I'd like, unfortunately. I want to start getting a monthly meetup going, but it's tough for me to find time and for people to find time to go and that kind of stuff. There's a couple other guys in our community who are actually starting to organize meetups now, because we've got that thing that, because I've done so much of it, people are sort of expecting me to do all of it, which is common in quite a lot of WordPress communities around the world. That's the end of your head, you've experienced that. And yeah, so we've got some other guys organizing meetups now as well, which is cool, which excites me. The fact that other people are doing it, not all sort of on my shoulders. And the fact that someone else has taken over the role of lead organizer for this year's WordCamp Cape Town is super exciting. Yeah, so our communities, I mean, if judging it by our WordCamp, we've got about 300 or so people in the community who are sort of involved.
And I think when I saw you on WordPress TV, I think you were mentioning that there were some other WordCamps that were going to be going on in South Africa. Did that take place, or is that taking place?
Yeah, there's actually, so for quite a while, Cape Town was the only place that had a WordPress meetup at all in South Africa, and then only WordCamp as well. And then, so recently, a WordPress meetup has started in Johannesburg and also one in Durban, which is very cool. And the Johannesburg guys looks like they'll be having the WordCamp this year, because they applied to organize one and they've had their initial interview and they've been approved and everything. I think they're at the stage now where they're finding the venue and the date and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure when it's going to be, but it looks like it's definitely happening this year, which I find very exciting. That makes me very happy that that's happening.
Nice. And do you get out and get to a lot of other WordCamps these days?
Actually not. The interesting thing about being in Cape Town is that we're very far away from the rest of the world. I mean, the closest kind of place to travel for a WordCamp would be, I guess, like Southern Europe, and that's like a 10 or 11 hour flight. So, interestingly, I've been to a bunch of WordCamps in Cape Town, but I've only actually been to one WordCamp outside of Cape Town, and that was the first WordCamp Europe. So I haven't actually been to a lot of other WordCamps, but I chat to a lot of other organizers that I'm involved in them, and I've done mentoring for a few other WordCamp organizers as well, which is kind of helping them with the logistics and stuff. I've done a bunch of that, so I've sort of been involved, but I haven't actually attended many others aside from that first WordCamp Europe. So I don't actually get to go out to WordCamps very often. It's tough to travel from South Africa to places like that frequently.
That's too bad. So do you do a lot of presenting at just local WordCamps or meetups?
Because I've been like lead organizer for the last couple of years for our WordCamp, I haven't actually done I haven't done a session as such, because kind of lead organizer role as well as planning a full WordCamp talk and doing it justice is, I think, it was a bit more than I wanted to take on. I did do a kind of workshop at WordCamp 2 years ago, just on kind of how to build your first WordPress plugin. And then I did a short talk at this last WordCamp Cape Town we had last year. Just kind of, so it was like a 10-15-minute intro talk about sort of what WordCamp is, the history of WordCamps in the world and in Africa and South Africa and that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. I quite enjoyed doing that. I'm probably going to be speaking at this year's WordCamp Cape Town because I'm not leading organising, so I have less on my plate. So I'll probably be doing a proper session this year, which will be pretty cool. I have also spoken at a local PHP community meetup. I did one talk there about getting into WordPress development, which was actually, there was a very good response from that. I find when chatting to PHP developers who don't work with WordPress, there's often a lot of hate towards WordPress for whatever reason. And there was actually wasn't really much of that at all at the meetup. It was actually pretty cool. So that was quite encouraging. So I've done that, and because I've involved in organising meetup events, I sort of do a bit of speaking there in terms of introducing people and that kind of stuff. So, yeah. But I'm hoping to do a proper session at this year's WordCamp Cape Town, so that should be good.
That sounds like a fun, challenging, and unique experience, advocating for and talking at length about WordPress development in front of a PHP developer audience. I'm sure that was pretty unique, and from my experience with PHP developers outside of WordPress, there definitely are like kind of pervasive misconceptions about the WordPress platform, and just a lot of confusing and different viewpoints about it. And I'm sure those conversations can get interesting, but it's good that they were mostly positive in your case.
Yeah, no, they were, which is cool. I enjoyed it. Some people, there was one guy asked a question about the GPL and licensing of WordPress, and we spoke about that a bit, and he couldn't understand how we can give stuff away, how we can sell something but people are allowed to give it away for free. He just couldn't get his head around that concept, which isn't a WordPress specific thing, of course, but
right.
So that was an interesting question. Yeah.
I'm sure. Well, interesting to tackle that at a PHP.
Yeah.
Is that a mindset that I'm not aware of in the broader PHP community?
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I guess licensing is always a touchy topic with people, and it makes for some fun discussions.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of subtleties to it that I still find difficult to explain. It is one of those areas that when I do Q&A after a session, I'm kind of hoping no one asks about it. If I'm being honest.
No, I can understand that.
Yeah.
I can understand that,
yeah. Yeah, it's tricky. But anyway, so back to talking about your initiatives and the Woo Team's involvement in the community. What are some of the things that you're kind of focusing on? You look at 2016 and some of your big broad goals and some of the things you're really like, I'd love to get there. I'd love for us to be able to accomplish these things or get better at this. Looking ahead, what are you really focusing on?
One thing I'm focused on personally for the also community thing that I'm driving is there's an event we've done locally here for the past 2 years, annually. So 2 years ago and last year, and we're doing it again this year. We call it Do Action, it's an event that's named after a function inside WordPress, of course. It's basically a charity hackathon. We get 10 local non-profit organizations, and we basically, on one day, we build them all brand new websites. So we get volunteers in the community to take on roles of project manager, developer, designer, all that kind of thing. And that's something I'm hugely excited about. The concept was actually my wife's idea. She suggested it, and I was like, hey, that's cool, we should do that. And it took me a while to start planning it. And when I did, I was like, oh, this is so much fun. And WordCamp is really, really cool. I totally love our WordCamp, but our annual Do Action event is probably the highlight of my year in terms of the WordPress calendar. So I'm focusing on that a lot. And one big thing that's happened there is that the WordPress community, in terms of community events, they've got meetups and WordCamps and stuff. They're looking at doing other types of events. And one thing they've always wanted to do is some sort of charity type of hackathon type of event. And Do Action has been brought under the WordPress Foundation banner now to be a sort of official WordPress community event, which is cool. So we just did one recently. I helped organize it, but I couldn't actually be there, in Austin, just around the time of WooConf. It was actually the day after WooConf. So we did one there. I worked with David Cole, who's at Automattic, who lives in Austin. and me and him organised it together. He was there on the day, and it went really, really well. So it's happened outside of Cape Town now, at least once, which is cool. And I'm busy putting together sort of documentation on how to organise this kind of event, and that's going to be up in the WordPress Community Organisers Handbook, so other people can replicate it in their areas. So that's something I'm hugely excited about, and I'm trying to push it to happen more and more, and something I'm really looking forward to seeing grow this year. I guess it's a personal thing, but because it came out of Woo Themes in Cape Town, it's sort of a Woo thing as well. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. You said you put up 10 sites in a day?
Yeah.
And you break those. How do you get all those volunteers to and organize it?
That's basically the process is, and we've actually just done the first stage of this already. Is we contact local non-profits in Cape Town. There's a local organisation called Give and Gain. It's just a massive network of non-profit organisations. They're very much in South Africa, but I think they're all over the world as well. Their focus is South Africa, as far as I know. Anyway, they send out a message about the thing to all their people, all their non-profit organisations, and they apply to be a part of it. And we've just finished that application round this week for this year's event. And we only picked 10 people purely because getting volunteers for more than 10 is difficult. But we had 33 non-profits apply this year. So that's, I always feel bad turning people away, but we're sort of, it's just not realistic to do more. And so the next stage is we've got to pick the 10 out of those 33, which we're going to be doing in the next week or two. And then basically we put it up on our website or on the meetup group, and we say these are the organizations. We list the roles available because we like to define the roles. So we say each team needs a project manager, 2 developers, a designer, a content creator, a social media manager, and a new role we're adding this year is a quality assurance tester. So each team has those 7 roles. And people can apply, they pick the charity, the non-profit they want to be involved in, and then what role they want on the team. And the first year we did it, we had people tentatively applying because they weren't sure about the event and hadn't done before, they hadn't done it before. And the second year, people just applied and filled up all the roles within like 2 weeks because people had done it once before and they loved it. So I'm kind of hoping that'll happen again this year because people keep asking me, when are we doing it? When are we doing Do Action this year? I really want to do it again. So we just have people apply and do it. It's great. Yeah.
Do you have like a website where people can see more about that? I'm afraid if I do action, I'm going to get like an actual action.
I'm working on that. We had plans to put up a site a while ago, and it just sort of never happened because time was sort of other things became more important. But I'm trying to get a point where we can have like a Do Action website for kind of tracking the Do Action events around the world. Kind of like how WordCamp Central, central.wordcamp.org tracks all the WordCamps around the world. Obviously, Do Action is a lot smaller scale than WordCamps, but that kind of idea. So I kind of want to get something like that going at some point. I do have a domain name and all that. It's just a matter of actually doing it, which takes time to build something like that. So, yeah.
Sure, no, that's really good. I've been wanting to do something similar, and I'm glad to hear you're doing it. I'd like to read more if you can share a link sometime when you get posted somewhere.
Yeah, we'll do. I'm busy putting together documentation to put on the Community Organizers Handbook, which is basically like how to organize an event like this, what kind of steps to take and stuff. So I'm busy putting that together at the moment, so that'll be live at some point when I've finished it. Yeah.
And one more question on that. I gotta ask this. Yeah. Do you actually like pick them by, okay, so these are the worst 10 existing websites, so they're the ones that need it the most?
The criteria for picking the non-profits is kind of, they apply if they have, we kind of want ones that need a new website and a new online presence, either if they don't have one at all, or maybe they're just using the Facebook page and they need a website, or if they've got a terrible one at the moment. If they've already got a decent website and they're just applying because they want something sort of shiny and new, then we don't really take that because that's sort of missing the point. So the kind of criteria are pretty straightforward. It's basically that they're in Cape Town, that they're a registered nonprofit, and that they can be there on the day, and that they need a new website. That's really all the criteria. So it's pretty simple. We do like to get because we have 10, we do like to get a few from different sections of society. So like an animal welfare group, a child welfare group, somebody who works with people with disabilities, or you know what I mean, kind of from different groups of society rather than all the non-profits doing the same sort of thing. Because that just appeals to people more, and people like to apply for specific organizations rather than the same kind of one.
Well, please tell your wife, excellent job on that one.
I will do.
So Hugh, if you're anything like me, moving out of a developer role into a non-developer role gradually, how do you get your developer fix? I miss writing code. It's hard to find time to do so.
Yeah. Kind of a small part of my job at the moment is writing code. I'm involved in some things on WeThemes, like a few of the features on WeThemes.com that are more community related, like our Wii benefits, which are sort of perks for our customers, our Wii experts, which are sort of affiliated partners who we recommend you go to for custom work and that kind of thing. I'm kind of involved in building features for those on our website. But that's a fairly small part of my job in terms of dev. But I also build plugins myself. I've got a few plugins on the repository, I think like 15 or so at the moment. One of my main plugins that I work on quite fairly regularly when I have time. Obviously, one doesn't always have time for side projects. It's a podcasting plugin called Seriously Simple Podcasting, and I really regret giving it such a long name. But at the time when I launched it, it felt like a really good idea. So that's kind of the main thing. That's got, I think, over 10,000 active users now, which is pretty cool. So that's like a side project that keeps me in development and stuff like that, which I thoroughly enjoy doing. It's like, yeah, that's cool.
Nice. So, touching on some other things, what kind of things do you do for fun outside of work?
For fun. Well, I've got a family. I've got a daughter who's almost 3, and my wife's currently pregnant with our second child, a boy. So a lot of family stuff. I mean, family's a big part of my life, obviously. So I spend my time off is largely spent with my family. So I play a lot of Duplo, a lot of Lego, play with cars a lot, that kind of thing with my daughter. So that's fun. Yeah, it's a lot of family stuff. I'm involved in my church, so I attend church and I help out there and stuff. And that's also a big part of my life, of course. Yeah, otherwise, to be honest, my off time is mostly spent like doing family stuff, which we always try to do something different and go on fun outings and that kind of thing, which I always really enjoy doing. Yeah, I occasionally try to find time to play computer games, but it's very rare these days that I find time for that. I used to, when I was younger, I used to do a lot more, but yeah.
Sure.
But that's cool. I don't really miss it that much.
Yeah, that's fine. So, if in another life, if you were not working with WordPress, what sort of things could you see yourself doing?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I haven't really given that much thought. Yeah, that's. To be honest, I can't actually think of a good answer to that off the top of my head. I'll think about it and I'll circle back on it if I can think of something.
So I gotta ask, right now with your daughter being 3, what are your favorite cartoons?
That's a fair question. We watch a lot of Peppa Pig. It's a UK one. We watch a lot of that.
I'm a big fan of Peppa
Postman
Pig.
Pat, also great. Nice. Postman Pat's always a winner. Curious George, it's always a favorite. Although the man with the yellow hat in that show, he's like the most irresponsible man in the world. It's like ridiculous. But that's always fun. And yeah, what else is there? Postman Pat. We found this weird show on YouTube lately called Morphle. It's basically this Morphle, M-O-R-P-H-L-E. It's really weird. It's this kid who's got a magic pet called Morphle who can morph into different things.
Huh.
The pet's basically like a little cube with eyes and feet and stuff, and then it can morph into like an aeroplane or a boat or an elephant or whatever. And the voices in the show are really weird. Yeah, you should watch. You should find it on YouTube. The episodes are really short. It's pretty trippy. But my daughter loves it, and it's actually quite fun to watch.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, definitely. I'll throw that one on the list of things to check out. My kid's still too young to really enjoy them, but I use it as an excuse to watch cartoons. The only problem is we are in South America and the cartoons are in Spanish, and it takes a little bit more energy for me to catch all the jokes or all the puns.
Sure, yeah.
I'll get there one of these days.
It's funny.
Yeah.
YouTube makes it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So Hugh, what are some examples of things that, if everything's works out, you'll be doing more of in the future?
In terms of my job and stuff,
Yeah, things
I
that
do it in Automattic and things.
it could be personally.
If everything works out, yeah. If everything works out, I'll be, in terms of stuff with Automattic, I'll be getting more involved in WordPress community. I'm more involved than I already am, so kind of focusing my job more on helping the WordPress community, whether it's helping Who get involved or helping the community directly. It's, either way. The big Drew action is, for me, is a big part of that. So yeah, that for me, in terms of my career and where I'm going Automattic at the moment, that's my main focus, is getting more steadily involved in the WordPress community in more ways, and in more meaningful ways, not just sort of like doing little things that, for the sake of it, but kind of getting involved more meaningfully. So for me, that's sort of where things are going here.
I was wondering if you could just, like, in passing, comment on, like, how you think things have changed for you guys as a company 1 year later after the acquisition. What's different?
It doesn't actually feel like a year, to be honest. I know it's not quite a year. It's like 11 months. It doesn't actually feel like it's been that long. It feels like it's gone way quicker than that. But I think for the first few months, nothing really changed. Everything, I think it was kind of for the first 6 months really, till the end of last year. Everything was sort of kept as is. There was no huge changes. There was a few new people hired and that kind of thing. No real significant changes. But lately, since kind of the beginning of this year, things have been shaking up a bit more. There's been a lot more new people hired, a lot of new people coming on, like the WooCommerce development team, for example. There's been a whole lot more developers on there, which is great for the product. And yeah, I think for me, my job has stayed fairly kind of static from what it was before. Sorry, not static, that sounds bad. Fairly similar to what it was before, which is great, and I'm really enjoying that. But I think for people on other teams, there's been a lot more change. I haven't really experienced a lot of the change directly myself, I don't think, just yet at least. Because of the type of team I'm on, it's more, things have stayed fairly much the same as they were before the acquisition, which is quite nice.
I'm kind of curious, Automattic, big company, very involved in the community, has obviously people working, dedicated or semi-dedicated to community involvement and community initiatives as well. Since the acquisition, have you been working very much with them, sharing ideas, collaborating, anything?
I've been chatting to people, like there's an internal team that works directly on WordPress community stuff. I've been chatting with them a bit about things and sort of seeing what I can do to sort of be involved there, but nothing really yet, at least nothing sort of, aside from the do action stuff, which is connected there, nothing really like kind of officially involved. Aside from my deputy work as a WordPress community deputy, that's obviously connected to that as well. Nothing further yet that we've spoken about specifically.
Fascinating. So, what is on your calendar for the next year? Any kinds of events? What do you plan on being present for, where someone might bump into you?
If you come down to Cape Town, you'll bump into me. There's Do Action Cape Town this year, which is going to be on the 16th of July. WordCamp Cape Town, which is, we've actually just this week, I think, posted on the official schedule. It's the 8th and 9th of September this year in Cape Town, which you guys should come down to because it's sweet. And yeah, WordCamp Cape Town is like, seriously, it's like the coolest WordCamp in the world. And obviously, because I've been to so many other WordCamps, I know this. But yeah, it's awesome. You guys should come down. And that's in September. That's all locally, of course. Because of the distance and stuff, travel isn't as easy. When WordCamp Joburg happens, so I don't know when that happens, but maybe I'll head up there for the day or something, because that's close. That's close enough by for me to go for a day or something like that. So I could maybe do that. But traveling overseas is always tough. Every year we have the Automattic Grand Meetup, which is the whole company meets up somewhere in the world. So that'll be later in the year as well. And there's the WordPress Community Summit this year, which I may or may not be going to. See how things go. Yeah.
Excellent. Do you find it, and I'm curious about this because it's something that we certainly take for granted, being in the U.S. and being in U.S. time zones, as somebody whose primary function is to help get more involved in the community, is it particularly challenging for you to do so not being based in the U.S. time zones?
At first that was more challenging. It's been getting steadily easier, but that is actually one of the kind of biggest hurdles for people outside of the US time zones to cross. And that's been tough at first. I've sort of learned to deal with it, but aside from that, over time there's been more stuff happening in Europe side, and obviously in Africa, and pretty much the same time zone as most of Europe, give or take a few hours. Which is very cool. WordCamp Europe is obviously a huge thing now, and that kind of stuff. So there's been a shift for more stuff happening in this time zone, which is great. But still, most of the meetings and that sort of thing happen on US time zones to some degree. Like for me, doing meetings in the evening often isn't easy. So I like to do things during the day. But during the day, pretty much most of America is asleep. So I don't get to do a lot of that. Sort of at the end of my working day, the America, like East Coast, starts waking up, or starts getting to work, which is always good. But like West Coast guys, like anyone in San Francisco or anyone there, we pretty much always miss each other, like completely. So that is, to be honest, in terms of the remote work and distributed company and the distributed community that WordPress is, time zones are probably the biggest hurdle that we have to cross. Yeah. One thing actually I didn't actually mention I'm involved in, and it connects to the time zone thing. There's a project on the moment called Help Hub, which is a project to move the WordPress user documentation from the codex to WordPress installation, much like the developer resources, which is known as DevHub, moving all the function stuff from the codex to that. This is moving the user documentation, which is a very cool idea. And I'm leading that project, so I'm managing that. And because I'm leading the project, I get to set the meeting time. So it happens at the time that's kind of end of my day on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. my time. So it works for me, but most of the people involved in the project can also be there, even though it's the start of their day. So there are ways around it. The main way is just start leading the project, and you can make the decisions. That's the easiest way to make it happen for you. But I agree that time zone stuff has been the biggest hurdle in the community, and also at a company like WeThemes and Automattic, where we distributed time zones are the biggest hurdle. But there's ways around it, and you sort of work around it as you learn to deal with it better.
Does South Africa change your time zones like most of the U.S. does? Like change an hour daylight savings time?
No, we don't have daylight savings. I find daylight savings very confusing, and as soon as that happens in the States, all my meeting times get thrown out. I don't know what's going on. So people are meeting with suddenly they're like an hour late for meetings. I'm like, what's happened? So yeah, that doesn't affect us at all, thankfully.
I think I have the same issue with this show. I think last time we had this time change, I thought I was getting in nice and early, and I was already 20 minutes late or something.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you got a lot on your plate, Hugh. I mean, I'm blown away with how much.
I try to get involved in different areas of the community where I can. So there's a lot of things going on. A lot of the things are kind of smaller projects. It's like little things that I do, so they don't take up a lot of time each week. But it's stuff that I like to be a part of. But I like to sort of get involved in different areas where I can. And I guess a big part of it is also me sort of finding out what parts of the community I'm more effective in as well, and enjoy more. So kind of if I sort of do things in lots of areas, I'll sort of be able to narrow that down over time, something more specific.
So we are getting close to wrapping up here, just about there. Just maybe a couple other quick questions for you. Number one, do you have any great recommendations of people that we should ask to be on the show in the future?
Any great recommendations? I'm not sure of all the guests you've had. 100 episodes, it's a lot of guests. But any of my colleagues at WeThemes are all great people. I love them all, so you should get all of them on. It'll take a while to go through all of them. There's like 67 people now, so it'll keep you busy for a while. Jeepers, so many people. Last year at WordCamp Cape Town, we had a couple of visitors from overseas. We had Pippin Williamson from Pippin's Plugins. We had Drew James, who was at 10 Up. He actually now works at Pippin's Plugins as well, and Justin Sainton from the lead dev for WP e-commerce. We had them down in Cape Town. They're really cool guys. Also Jenny Wong down from the UK. And they're all such awesome people, and I can recommend all of them, because they're great.
Awesome. Of some of the recent things you've done development-wise, are there any plugins that maybe we didn't talk about that you're particularly proud of and you'd like to share and explain why you made it and why we should check it out?
I'm a big fan. Yeah, I guess my podcasting plugin is like my main plugin I work on, which I thoroughly enjoy, and that's very cool. And I can definitely recommend you check that out. If you run a podcast on WordPress, you should use it. I see you guys don't, but that's fine. I'm not offended. You should though. And I've got a few others. Most of my other plugins are quite a bit smaller, and that's like my main bigger one. The other ones are like little ones that add small features to the WordPress core that are just kind of useful. Some of them I've made the plugin and submitted a patch, and then the patch hasn't been accepted, so I've sort of left the plugin there. That kind of thing. I've also got a stats add-on for my podcasting plugin, which is called Seriously Simple Stats, which is created there, and that's pretty cool. So it's all free because I don't have any reason to sell it, so it's all free, which is nice. But you should check those out.
Awesome. So, Hugh, thank you so much for joining us. Before we sign off, is there anything else that you wanted to share, just make people aware of, or maybe just give anybody who's interested an opportunity to get in touch with you? Whatever you want to say.
Well, actually, one thing I meant to mention at some point, so this is as good a time as any, is if you wanted to get more involved in the WordPress community, there's obviously the Making WordPress Slack channel, which is great that's for people who are, if you're contributing to WordPress in some way, if it's core or translations or community events or whatever, that's for organizing stuff and making stuff happen. But outside of that, something that has been a huge benefit for me being involved in or being a part of is the Post Status Club. Poststatus.com is a WordPress news website run by Brian Krogsgaard, who's also great. We had him in Cape Town a couple of years ago for WordCamp, and you should have him on. There's the Post Status Club, which is you get some exclusive news and stuff from Brian, which is great. But the huge advantage of this is a private Slack channel just for club members. I can highly recommend being involved there because there's pretty much all the awesome people from the WordPress community are there, and they're rad, and you can chat to them, and which is pretty cool. And there's a lot of people who are in my time zone there, which is quite fun. So it's not only people in America. So that's something I'd recommend if you want to get more involved in the WordPress community. But otherwise, if you want to get hold of me, I'm on Twitter. I'm Lashbrooke. I'm on the Making WordPress Slack. I'm on the Post Status Slack, obviously. You can find me there. On WordPress.org, my username is actually Lashbrooke on like everything that I'm on. So if there's a service that you want to find me on that I might be on, just try Lashbrooke and you'll probably find me. So, and HughLashbrooke.com is my website. It's not too frequently updated, but it's there.
Cool. Okay, well, there we have it. We have done 100 episodes of this show, Jason, and we wrapped it up nicely with our good friend Hugh. Hugh, thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. I actually know what time it is for you. It's probably much later.
It's 9 p.m. at the moment, so it's evening for me.
9 p.m. Great.
Oh, that's normally my ending time.
Yeah, mine too. We appreciate you working with your schedule to accommodate us and join us for our 100th episode. Thank you so much for being on the show. I wish you all the best. I hope to bump into you at some point this year.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thanks, guys. It was fun.